And aid drops have begun in Gaza after Israel is allowing momentary pauses in fighting to allow much needed food and supplies in 3 key areas. Aid groups warn these pauses are not enough as people, including children, are dying because of what they call a man-made starvation. Even the strategy of dropping food from the sky means the weakest are not able to get the help that they need. People are scrambling to get aid. Some people are getting trampled, and some Gazans say that drops are humiliating. Scripps News Global Affairs correspondent Maya Rodriguez joins me now live with more details on this. And Maya, it does appear those airdrops have resumed over Gaza. What can you tell us?
Andrew, Israel, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates conducted the first food airdrops into Gaza on Sunday. That amounted to about 25 tons of food. That's the equivalent of what a handful of trucks can transport over land. But it is a fraction of what is needed when you consider that 600 aid trucks came into Gaza every day before the war. The U.S. and its allies tried these food drops in Gaza last year, but they were considered inefficient when it came to feeding the more than 2 million people who live in Gaza. In some cases, the airdrops last year turned dangerous when the parachutes on some of them malfunctioned and killed people, including children, on the ground. In the meantime, Israel announced a limited pause in military action in Gaza in order to allow in more aid trucks. They call it a tactical pause. It is taking place daily for 10 hours in 3 heavily populated areas of Gaza. It is not clear, though, for how many days this 10-hour daily pause will last. It comes as the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says 34 people were killed by an Israeli airstrike today. Here is what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said about allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza.
In every route we choose, we will need to continue allowing minimal humanitarian supplies. We have done this until now, but the UN is creating an excuse and a lie about Israel. It says they won't let humanitarian supplies in. We are letting them in. There are secure routes. They have always been there. But today it's official. No more excuses.
But UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, says more needs to be done to help children in Gaza overcome the starvation they are currently facing. We want to warn you, the video you are about to see is very, very hard to watch. But we are showing it to you as one example of the extent of the starvation in Gaza. Over the weekend, the Associated Press reported that a 5-month-old baby in Gaza, Zainab Abu Khalib, who was born weighing 6 pounds, 6 ounces, died weighing 4 pounds, 4 ounces. In other words, she died weighing 2 pounds less than when she was born 5 months ago. Here is what UNICEF is saying about the need for consistent food aid to come into Gaza.
Ultimately, what is needed is a ceasefire, because for a child who is malnourished, it is not enough to be able to reach them one time. They require a course of treatment that can take many weeks before they are fully recovered. Otherwise, we will just see children deteriorate again.
In the meantime, celebrity chef Jose Andres, who founded the U.S. nonprofit World Central Kitchen, wrote an opinion piece published in the New York Times on Sunday. World Central Kitchen operates in conflict and disaster zones around the world, including Gaza. You may recall several of their aid workers were killed last year in an Israeli airstrike. In the op-ed, Chef Andres wrote that 40 years ago this month, the humanitarian global concert Live Aid helped shock the world into action to alleviate a famine in Ethiopia. He added that, quote, "A generation later, people of good conscience must now stop the starvation in Gaza. There is no excuse for the world to stand by and watch 2 million human beings suffer on the brink of full-blown famine. We are far beyond the blame game of who is the more guilty party. We don't have the time to argue about who is holding up the food trucks. A starving human being needs food today, not tomorrow." Chef Andres says recently they've had to shut down their large-scale feeding kitchens in Gaza twice because of a lack of food. He goes on to lay out several solutions to alleviate the starvation in Gaza, including establishing safe aid corridors, rapidly increasing the bulk production of hot meals, and delivering those meals across Gaza. The current aid system is run by the Israel and U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and they only have 3 aid distribution sites for the more than 2 million people in the 25-mile-long Gaza Strip. Andrew.
And Maya, it seems like we have seen some less than positive signs when it comes to a potential ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinians and Hamas specifically. Where do things stand on the diplomatic efforts?
Well, you know, Andrew, at this point, those talks are really just going nowhere. Last week, Israel and the U.S. recalled their negotiators from the talks, saying Hamas was not acting in good faith. And those negotiations have yet to restart, Andrew.
All right, Scripps News Global Affairs correspondent Maya Rodriguez for us. Maya, thank you.